All right, yo, check it out. Sorry to be so yo, but not. Anyway, I'll shut up. Sometimes I think like I'm too stiff when I start recording, and then I try and be loose, and then I'm just a looser. All right. Anyway, I got just a couple quick things. Dare I say it? First one, Laura Loomer for Congress.com, huh? I think most of us might know who Laura Loomer is, and we might even have thought she was kind of cool. And right here we see some Laura Loomer for Congress signs. What a coincidence. Must be Florida. And anyway, she was running for some congressional seat against a long-time incumbent, to my very shallow knowledge. And she just happened to catch this at a little polling place, supposedly. So sorry to pause it. I hate when people pause videos that you're just trying to watch and everything, but I don't. The volumes are always weird. It's like the video's volume's either way too low or way too high or whatever like that, even though I try and dial it all. But anyway, if you just heard a voice that sounds very Laura Loomerish, say, that's not Kamala. And that voice is right. This is not Kamala Harris, or Harris, however you pronounce her. Kamala Harris, is that how? I don't want to get it wrong. I know people get mad if you get it wrong. So anyway, the claim is there's like maybe 10 people here at this like public park looking setting, and Laura freaking Loomer just happens to be one of them. What timing when this fake Kamala Harris pulls up and in a stretch limo, supposedly. Like, who's ever seen her pull up in a stretch limo with two fake bodyguard people or something, and gets out and is gonna walk up and like hug a few people and all this sort of thing. And if you know anything about this, you've probably seen this. There was like a Facebook posting where obviously this person ran a thing on Facebook to hire a couple security guards and promised them like chips and soda or something to that effect. You know, probably something more than that. But anyway, yeah, I'll just let the video play. So, yeah. Nice big Laura Loomer ad across the bottom there.
You were amazing yesterday. I was there to see you
Thank
speak.
you so much. That's not Kamala Harris. That must be. Doesn't even look like her.
That's not Kamala Harris.
That's not Kamala Harris.
If you notice, these people were all ready with their selfies on their phone, like they were holding it, like all. It's like so choreographed. This whole thing.
Very deceptive to the voters to send body doubles out. Very deceptive.
Oh, tell us.
Fake Kamala Harris.
Oh, is it who hired her? Who hired her, Laura Loomer? That's my fucking question. Excuse my language. My chips would have to be on the fact that Laura Loomer hired this fake Kamala Harris to come out and pull this publicity stunt so she could pretend to expose what happened. Uh-oh, I'm getting the hand wave over here saying don't get all crazy with your whole shenanigans. Let me turn this down. Yeah, this is ridiculous. Give me a freaking break. It's not Kamala. Yeah, with Laura Loomer, the only copy of this video I've ever seen has Laura Loomer for Congress across the bottom, of course, because she's the one who took it. Where's the video from all these other actors that are all around here that aren't even clicking? Like, does this dude even clicking to take a picture? You know what I mean? There's like 10 people. Like, she's gonna show up like that and all these people are gonna believe it? Give me a freaking break. Laura Loser just lost the race. Thank God that, at least with all the chaos of these elections, that people have apparently realized that, you know, they can see her for what she is. Because I'm not trying to accuse, but I'm just saying, hey, give me a break. What are the odds of her being there filming and like, oh, I'm going to expose this person? And these whole dirty trick things, like, I understand that like stuff gets dirty days before the election on both sides and all that crap. But I don't care. I'm going to call it as I see it. You know, I'm going to straight up call it. I don't care what dirty crap the Democrats did. It doesn't make the dirty Democrat crap all right. But it doesn't make it okay to do this. Like, oh, we're going to come back because like one of the recent things. Excuse me, I got a cough. One of the supposed dirty tricks that Democrats played was accusing. Oh, I got something in my throat. Accusing Melania of sending a body double. Excuse me, one more second. Sending a body double to like something she did or something. I didn't even look into it. I was like, give me a break. But I don't know. And then it was like right after that, this happens, and it's like, so what's this? Like Laura Loomer saying like, oh, we'll show you. I'll do this dirty thing and I'll write it off like it's okay. It's bullshit. Total bullshit. And anyway, I just wanted to call that out. She's sitting here saying, that's not Kamala. Yeah, you hired her, dude. You hired her. And then you put your whole thing, Laura Loomer for Congress. So who knows? People probably saw this and were like, oh, I'm not going to vote her. She's a fake, you know, or whatever. Good thing. And then her whole thing of like, I don't know. There's just been a few other little sketch things with her. That's her right there. And that I've already been a little bit like, I don't know. I see her with Milo Yiannopoulos sometimes, which I personally like Milo. I'm not saying he's like a perfect person or that in any way that I like necessarily align with anybody else's views, but overall I still like Milo. But I don't like Laura anyway. So she's done for a while. So watch out for those people no matter what side they're on, please. Okay, and then of course, in case you've been in a smaller hole or whatever than I have, you might not know that it's a presidential election. Okay, you did know. Wow. All right. And this is the day after the election day when I'm recording this. So there's still these undecided states, right? And the thing is that gets me is what they're counting the Biden-Harris count as. And if you look, I've kind of gone in here. Maybe I reset this map, I don't know. But this one's kind of cool. It's at this 270towin.com site. You can go in, kind of cool. Not really cool, kind of cool. You can go in and you can click on the, like I could change this, right? So it sets up some half-baked defaults for you or whatever. So I thought I'd come in here and check out like what the whole deal is, because everything's showing Trump down. Like if you go to the Fox News one, then it shows Trump like way down, right? And Fox News is supposed to be leaning right, like election 2020 or whatever, 2022. That'll work. And then they're showing Biden way up, like almost there. Well, if you look right now on this little stupid chart, it says Biden 270, Trump 267. That's not right. I've calculated on a calculator, and if we even come in here and fill in all these supposed Biden ones just to see how it's filling this count out right here. And it's like everything is in favor of Biden. Like it's crazy that they're doing this. And some of them don't even get the math right, which I'm trying to show right now. We'll give Trump the states that, you know, in all honesty, he's likely to get now. You can disagree. That's fine. For this illustration, either way, either idea still works. 267, 267. This should be 268, I believe. I don't know why it's 267. That's how buggy their math is. But it says it's 270. Like if I get rid of Washington, there's 12. Boom, 258, right? Just to demonstrate that if I put it back to dark blue or any blue shade, it goes back into his count. But, you know, 255 right there, right? 255, 258. Why is it off by 3? It makes no sense. So I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're accidentally giving these, like, it's not giving Trump his reds in Michigan. And if I click off of this, there's no way to get him back either. So then that even takes him down to 254. Now Trump's at 279. What? Oh, 283. It just keeps adding. How dumb. Oh, I have Washington. I'm dumb. Okay, there. Biden's got Washington again. Nobody gets Maine. Okay. 267, 266. Oh man, this dumb math. But anyway, this just goes to show, like, and then if you go over to the Fox News thing, 214 to 264. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh really, Trump can't have Georgia, huh? So let's look at Georgia here. Georgia, razor freaking thin, to say the least. This is like the burr on the razor kind of thin margin right here. And I mean, Trump's got it so far, so at least it does appear to be a light shade of red there, but why can't that go into his count? And then they're giving Biden Arizona, which is also, I mean, I would say that's the dole end of a razor thin right there, because it's like, what, roughly 100,000? Little over 100,000 there. Little over 100,000. And then right here, 8,000. There's only an 8,000 vote difference. Don't think your vote doesn't count, right? And then here in Alaska, Trump's obviously got this. I mean, he freaking, they claim 50% in. He's got double of what Biden does. So, I mean, honestly, there's a shot in the dark that Biden could come back and win that by a razor thin one, but it's Alaska, and we just know historically that's just like with California, where we know that, like, that those are going to be the numbers. So then you get over here to this Pennsylvania. What do we have here? That's a fair margin. It's right on. I mean, what are you looking at there? Like, well, it's less than 200,000 now. Those votes keep creeping in, huh? Less than 200. 200,000, I consider the, once you start getting under that for a lot of these states with serious millions population, millions of votes, then you're really starting to get closer and closer. What's Michigan at? 99% in. That is razor thin right there. I mean, shoot. What is that? It's a little over 100,000 there, right? Been staring at these numbers so long I can't even do math. 20,000 vote difference in Wisconsin. That's hardly anything. And then that one's seems to be a fair lead if there's no corruption, right? So it's just, anyway, it's just kind of weird how it's like Biden gets all these 264 up in his count and Trump gets 214. It's like, why don't they give Trump Alaska? Why don't they count that in his thing and everything? Like, they're giving Biden all these other counts like way ahead of time. Now it seems like more obvious it's a little bit later in the counts, so it's like, okay, it makes a little bit more sense, but what's the deal there? Why can't we? Because if we do, we obviously see that, like, Trump's way up here like this. You start giving it to him. You know, they could even just say it's projected. Like a light red projection on these still. And that'd be like a blue on that one. Blue on that one. We'll give him Alaska. And then we're giving Biden Wisconsin right there, right? Oh, they already did. With that razor thin margin. But they got 99% in, but still. Supposedly. But if you did something like that along those lines, then you can just see, like, then you got 267, 267 up here, right? So, okay, even take away Alaska, say that whatever, it's not fair. Well, then we're back down to 213. What? Oh, okay, I'm looking at the wrong thing. There's still 267 up there, so I don't know. It's just, I brought that up because I just feel like it's sort of like manipulation, you know? Like, they could choose the lies, damn lies, and statistics, which ones to show you. And a little bit earlier on, the way I had manipulated it was, it looked like Trump was in the lead the way I did it. It gave him a strong lead over Biden. when you take things into consideration like California and stuff. Because if you look in California, these solid blues are supposedly the only ones that are more of like definite counts, right? So like technically the vast majority of California hasn't even been counted yet. So that's just something to look at, is like there's those 267 and 267 up there. So like even if you say those ones are total toss-ups, like if I want to manipulate it like this, right? And then Biden can have Maine. Here, it's like that. Even though who knows what, it could come down to Maine, right? I don't know. Can't do math anymore. So even like that, you could, it like looks like it's in Trump's favor. So for him to win, what would that be? 260 to 278, that could be a Trump victory. Oops, I was gonna leave that one blue. Then put that one back blue. 270, that right there, that's why it's gonna come down to these states most likely. And then he's pulling in the Supreme Court over some stuff up here and maybe over here, and who knows, maybe down here too. But like to do with that little area of possible count fraud on that, whatever your views might be on that. But if he takes one of these, boom, 273, if he can claim those that are leaning red and Pennsylvania doesn't go too crazy, then he's got it. If he takes both of those, he wins by a pretty good amount. Oops. Alright, I'm taking forever, aren't I? Or it could be something like that, who knows. But yeah, there's lies, damn lies, and statistics, so whatever. It's still possible, but we know by this far through the year of all the crap that's been going down and all the projections and everything that this is probably not going to end anytime soon. And now they've stopped reporting counting numbers and all this stuff, and it's going to go into lawsuit territory. And I've just got to wonder what's going on. Are they trying to push us into civil conflict? Is that what it is? Because it's like my dumb self feels behind Trump for like whatever. Like I feel like, a lot of times it does come down to the lesser of two evils, but in this case, from what I can see on the surface, and even when I scratch down below, I can't find anything bad about Trump. And I'm a person who's been totally hard left for the past 25 years, and it's like I can't find anything about the guy. Like, well, you could say he's a racist, you could say he's this, you could say he's that. Show me proof. You know what I mean? Show me absolute proof of any of that stuff. I can show you proof that Biden is a racist. I could show you proof of, give me any Democrat making any accusation to Trump, and I will show you that that exact Democrat is guilty of that. So that's what's crazy. And apparently a lot of people did, not to say there aren't things to not like about him, or, even if you push all the so-called politics aside, even though politics technically means policy, right? So we wouldn't want to push the policy aside, but we often use that word in a sense that means like the BS part of politics, of course. But if we look at, push all that stuff aside, and if you're like, oh, I'm somebody who's more pro these other countries, like somebody who's more pro Iran, then obviously that I could look at that like, okay, if you somehow think that Iran's cool or whatever, then, and that's your reasoning, one of your primary reasons for siding to the left, then that's your choice, and you make that, and I can respect that, and somebody else is like, oh, I'm pro-Israel or something, and that's why one of their primary things why they might like Trump and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, I can respect your opinion on that. That regardless of whether I personally agree with that, I can understand like there's a solid thing that it's like, yeah, okay, Trump is pro-Israel and the Democrats are generally pro-Iran, and you can take a bunch of other countries and throw them across the board and get the same kind of results of who they would go into cahoots with, or whatever word you want to call it, who they would have good trade deals with and stuff like that versus who they wouldn't. Obviously, Democrats pro-China, conservatives less likely to be pro-China, all that kind of stuff. My point is, those are tangible reasons. Those are like objective reasons to pick a candidate. For even though you have subjective qualities under the surface about them, on the very top, it's it's very concrete, you know. But to say like Trump is a racist or any of that kind of stuff is just, it's ridiculous. There's tons of proof that that's not true, you know. Um, and even if you did try and just really twist the perspective on something, you could so much easier do that with Biden. I mean, the guy sided with segregationalism back in his early career and considered like people like Robert Byrd, who was a segregationalist all the way into the 80s. And that's who he considered his mentor, you know. And Hillary seemed to have a pretty close relationship with the man as well. And I'm not trying to judge him. I would hope that people could change their ways and their views, you know. And even with segregationalism, I understand there was supposedly some logic to that. You know, it wasn't necessarily that every segregationalist, and I'm just saying this, you know, I'm not trying to defend anybody, but, you know, it wasn't necessarily that they all wanted like violence against each other. I think a lot of them probably did. I think a lot of politics probably heated up to where that was the case. But if you look at somebody like even Malcolm X, he was a segregationalist as a black person. You know, that doesn't mean just because somebody's a segregationalist doesn't necessarily mean they're pro-slavery or something like that. Yeah, those kind of views often can go hand in hand, or maybe way back in the past they did go hand in hand. Like I said, I'm not trying to defend anybody on any of that kind of stuff, but I'm just trying to look at it with a very open mind and say, okay, even coming from these places of like where Biden is siding with segregationalists and all that kind of stuff, I'm personally against that. I'm personally, even the most favorable view of segregationalism, I'm personally against, you know. But then again, I can respect people if they only want to maybe have a partner that's of a particular race or something. You know, those are their own personal little views for themselves, their intimate selves. That's fine. You know, I can understand that. Even if somebody thinks that like two different races shouldn't marry and procreate, that's fine for them to have that view internally. But if they start projecting that out on like a child that comes out of that relationship and discriminating against that person, or, you know, discriminating against people out in public, or having a job, like hiring and firing based on those kinds of things, I'm totally against that. You know what I mean? But for anybody to hold, it's ridiculous to say somebody can't hold a value, even if they want to say that they think their race is superior to another. It's like, fine, you can think that. You know what I mean? Like, that's what, especially in America, that's what it's all about. Like, you can think whatever you want, but as soon as you push that onto somebody else, you know, it's one thing to go talk it. It's like, you might want to hold your tongue, in my opinion, right? You know, like, you might not want to go pushing that stuff on people, like, verbally, but then once the actions, that's their choice, right? Just like, you know, I say what I say, and that's for whatever that is. But as soon as those actions start backing up that stuff, as soon as that internality becomes external, especially in any sort of like overly assertive or aggressive sort of manner, that's where it's like, I feel like whatever, then I stop respecting that individual for doing that kind of a thing, you know. So it's like, if somebody wants to think whatever supremacy, whatever race, fine. But as soon as you're out there screaming in somebody else's face, you know, that's that aggressive, at least overly assertive, you know. If you're like anything like that, then I'm sorry, I don't respect that. It's, you know, we all got the right to put up our claim on stuff. That's the honest way of doing things. And that's the thing with this election too, is it's like all this dirty stuff I see in the last few days of the election, I don't like that. And I don't like a lot of what I'm seeing on the social media. I understand that like some people have been able to say some stuff. Let's go look at James Woods. Short my ass for this video, huh? Okay, we could do a Twitter and then do Yames Woods. I just recently checked some of his stuff out again, so let's come down and find out where. So Twitter hasn't censored him on this yet. It's only 30 minutes old. They probably will. But how has Chief Justice John Roberts worked out for America? Champ or chump? So here's an example. They probably won't censor this. And if they did, I would have a problem with it because he is asking an unbiased question that's not twisted or targeted in any particular way. And he's given basically a black and white answer for it of like, you know, and I'm not trying to say that black or white, either one's a good or a bad choice. You know, I mean, I'm just saying very distinctive on the color spectrum. That he's either a champ or a chump, right? So that's like yes or no almost. So I don't see a problem with that. But if you come down a little further down here, sorry, my audio quality is going to fluctuate because of the ducking or whatever stuff that goes on with the drivers and windows. Been tweeting up a storm, hasn't he? Haven't been here in a few hours. Come on, browser. Recording a video, so it's a little extra slow. Okay. Did I go back too far? He might have. Okay, here's something that's blocked. Let's check it out. Of course, Twitter blocks what he's saying. I guarantee not a single Democrat will be blocked by Twitter, not one. And then you come here to view it, and then they make you click view again. AZ update. Apparently, the use of Sharpie pins in GOP precincts is causing ballots to be invalidated. Could be huge numbers of mostly Trump supporters, more to come. Okay. This one is a good borderline example because this was, they do allow Sharpies in Arizona. Like that's a thing overall through the state, right? And their secretary of whatever, Katie, what's her name? She came out, you know, one of the head representatives of the state came out and said that Sharpies are okay, don't worry. So that sounds like, okay, then what is this? Is this like totally trying to like pit out propaganda around the election, right? So on that hand, I could understand the collapsing. I don't know about the collapsing, but at least framing it with like this learn about the 2020 election security efforts or something like that. And plus it's an open forum. Like somebody could paste Katie's a little blurb about her right under here and go, what are you fools worried about or something like that, right? But this thing is it comes down to one county is what they're talking about in particular where the votes may have been ruled even against the state policy, right? But it's up in the air. Nobody knows the truth yet, and there's some type of investigation going on where they have like so many days or whatever to prove that and demonstrate that, you know, that didn't happen. So that's where I've got a problem with this being, you know, I had to click through and then click view again just to get this info. And it's like Arizona update. Apparently the use of Sharpie pins in GOP precincts is causing ballots to be invalidated. So it, you know, they could always word it better, right? It should have maybe said, could be causing ballots to be invalidated, but this is freaking Twitter. Even Twitter could word most of their stuff better, in my opinion, and be less biased. And the news places they promote all that, but it says apparently, it doesn't say definitely, right? And then especially right here we got could wording, be huge numbers of mostly Trump supporters, more to come. So it's not saying it's like some like definitely huge, definitely, you know, there's none of that. So that one is borderline, right? Because the state says, hey, this isn't our policy and all that stuff, but in one county there is an ongoing investigation currently as we do this, as we speak, or you listen, or whatever's going on. So that's a bad. And then they do worse. Or I shouldn't say they do worse, but I've seen worse, and James Woods, I've seen worse out of him too. So here's another one. Some or all of this content in this tweet is disputed, might be misleading about the election or other civic processes. Okay, this is one I was looking for. I only had to click once, right? I don't know. Is mail-in ballot harvesting, quote unquote ballot harvesting, the American way, or is it fundamentally voter fraud? And then this. So this one, depending on who you are, you might read it and think like, what's wrong with that, right? It's one of those like, but you could see this quote. I mean, he did put it in quotes, but couldn't he said mail in, like dispatched mail in ballot collection, whatever they call it, where basically they have been doing this, and I've seen a lot of stuff to do with Democrats. I don't know if that's a certain sway or not, but there's been a lot of Democrat organizations trying to send people out to collect absentee ballots in person from registered voters in areas. And I've seen it to where like people have posted things, whatever, their own solicitations and stuff that they've received regarding that stuff. So that does open a door for possible ballot harvesting, right? Not saying it happens or that it doesn't. I'm just saying that's where that possible vector is, right? But he says, is mail-in ballot harvesting the American way, or is it fundamentally voter fraud? So it's like that's twisting it. That is crossing the line on his part. Just like, I called Twitter out, I'm going to call him out on that. So we're getting these types of things going on that makes it all questionable. And it does add confusion around this, because now it's like, okay, well, now I can't trust anybody. Who can I trust? Nobody on here. And I don't mean just because of the couple little examples I've been showing. I mean, the more you pan it out, the more it just comes down to like both sides are doing corruption. So this is twitter.com explore. Oh, it's giving me explorer because I typed it wrong. I get rid of this stuff. It's just using up extra resources. I haven't been here in a day or so. Detroit, chanting stop the count, attempt to gain access to TCF Center in Detroit, Michigan. I think this might be the place where they're pitting up the cardboard over the windows, which, yeah, that does seem wrong, but it's like, what are they doing? Are they being a little bit harassing, just like supposedly the left was, in the past? Like, are they making it hard for these people to do their job of counting? Like, I saw when they were pitting up the things over the windows, it sounded like somebody might be tapping on the glass outside and stuff, and it's like, okay, and they're chanting and stuff like that. It's like, I don't agree with covering the windows. I think there literally should be transparency there, but then I have to wonder, like, are these people crossing the line? Is it becoming like a security issue? And I'm not going to click through because I don't trust whatever to go through there. Squirtle. What do we have? Anything in here worth talking about? Many are discussing the importance of Arizona and Nevada as counting continues. Definitely. I think I demonstrated that earlier. Alright, let's check out what's trending. Never saw anything about Ivanka over the last few days. Still saw, even, it's like, okay, there's a bunch of stuff about the election, obviously, spilling over. But I even saw them slip in some stuff on the NFL again, but nothing about Ivanka. So they did, not a blurb, they didn't want to trend her at all. So that's just another case of like, where they never mention about how good she did of breaking the record for generating money for a campaign. Set the all-time record. Las Vegas, Hannity, Alex Jones, all them are just, I feel like they're trying to escalate things. They're turning into the same old broken records. They're probably so happy because their stats are going through the roof right now because everybody's like on edge and they've got to, including myself, you got to go there and listen to all their crap because of course they're going to be like the people who are gonna, for the conservative voices, or for the people like me that don't normally identify as full conservatives, but I'm more of a centrist, I guess, and so that means I have a lot of values on both sides. I don't draw party lines in the sand. I look at it like, okay, like I'm very traditional in one hand, and on the other hand, I'm very not traditional. So it's like I don't persecute gay people. You know, even though I have beliefs that are very rooted in tradition, and I'm not gay, and at least I don't think I am on most days. But anyway, like, just to say, like, a lot of those things are against, I don't even want to say necessarily against, but they're like, I don't know, I'm glad I'm not gay, because I just, I don't want to say that I don't think that's right. I don't want to be like right or wrong, black and white about it, but let's just say that for the sake of an example, right? um Make it with something else. you know like, I personally, in recent times, I've come to think, like, I'm not cool with abortions. And I don't say that like whatever. I know people hate me for saying that. Some people probably love me for saying that, but I don't mean that in any sort of stereotypical sense, like, oh, whatever, like the whole traditional argument. I look at that like, and maybe that's not as good as an example. It's not. So with the gay thing, I would say, like, I'm against state being involved in any kind of marriage, in any kind of heterosexual marriage or gay marriage or whatever marriage. Like, the Constitution of the United States says that, the Constitution, the government should not make any law for or against any religion. So that means we know that marriage is a religious institution. Might come across as a lot of religions, and people who are even atheists get married, right? But the fact is, where does that come from? You know what I mean? That's a religious institution. Even if you're atheist, that's your religion, in my opinion. So it's like, the government shouldn't be involved in that. But the reason they are is because they like to have build up a strong military and stuff like that at certain times. Right now, obviously, they want to break down the country. It's obvious. One side does, in my opinion. If you have anything to the contrary, let me know. But when you want to go full on freaking hardcore socialist and do all this stuff that's going on now that is not the American way, go with globalist policies and stuff, that's not what America's about. I don't like the idea of imperialism either. I'm an anti-imperialist. Just as much as I don't agree with globalism per se, I don't agree with one or very few countries dominating the globe per se either. So don't think I'm like that. But I believe there's a happy harmony balance that could possibly be had somewhere in that middle ground, where, if we did establish good trade with some countries and stuff like that, and bring back in stuff into our own country, instead of having politicians, accept deals and briberies and stuff like that to export jobs and set up, manipulate tariffs in a bad way to where we don't, they set a tariff on a television set. Probably ranted about this before, but with the whole television thing, they said, when there was one company left that was producing televisions in the United States, they set a big tariff on TVs coming in, getting imported. So even though they were still made by cheap, underpaid labor overseas, supposedly, by the time we get them, we're paying the same price as if they were made in America. And the argument there is that, like, by doing that tariff, that's protecting these American jobs that are still here, that are onshored, so that, that it makes them go into competition with our local television manufacturers, or manufacturer singular, because at that point there was literally one TV manufacturer left, and they were on their way out, and they no longer exist. So now that they're gone, the tariffs still stand, at least to my knowledge. I haven't directly looked at that in decades, but they Yeah, so it's like, well, now what's happening is the government, who has allowed those jobs to all be outsourced to other countries, did not use those tariffs to regenerate the television manufacturing industry here. They just let it go, and now they could tax everything, and we still have to pay out the butt for television. I mean, arguably TVs are cheaper and better than they were. That was back when you'd have to pay, like, specifically the time I'm thinking of, you'd have to pay like $150 for a 13-inch TV. And this was like right when flat panels, early 2000s, I want to say, late 1990s, like right around the turn of the century. So it's just like, how is that fair? These TVs that just should have been dirt cheap by then, like they've been making those big old fat monitor TVs for so long by then that it was like, they must have been so inexpensive. And now you can see, like, even with flat panel TVs, I could go to the thrift store, or used to be able to until they freaking ruined the economy, but go to the thrift store and get one for plus or minus $20 of a nice size, bigger than 13-inch and stuff. One that could plug into a computer or be a television tuner, all that kind of stuff. But anyway, that all that stuff aside, like that, we need balance. Like all these things are being manipulated, and if it come back around to Trump doesn't seem to have manipulated this stuff as much. Like I remember when he set some tariffs and stuff like that, I was like, oh yeah, right, that will never pan out, but then you look at what's going on and it's like, wow, some of this stuff pans out, and he's not the best at articulating those things to the public. By far not the best at articulating to some amount of the public. He's okay at it, but it didn't strike me. I had to go investigating for myself and be like, oh hey, you're not such a bad guy, and then I had to tell some other people that I knew that were like, oh man, Trump's a weirdo, right? And I was like, hey, you might want to go look at these things and come back and tell me, like, are you not seeing what I'm seeing? And they sure enough come back, like at least half of them came back and were like, that seemed to be the only ones who bothered to take the time to look into anything, and they're like, hey, that's totally true, and then they were just able to, I didn't have to like program anybody, they could see for themselves from there. And I think that's what gets written off a lot, is like that MAGA cult thing, the Trump MAGA cult. There definitely is a MAGA cult, don't get me wrong. Like, I don't know how harmful or harmless or whatever it is, but at the same time, there's just a lot of people who are truly patriotically, I would say even more patriotically stoked about what Trump is doing and what he has done, But that being said, he, of course, had to get in bed with some big companies to stay afloat and probably to not get killed, with big countries and stuff like that. He didn't have nothing to do with Russia, and we've seen that there's plenty of evidence that the Democrats did. It's one of those situations where I say, give me one of those Democratic fingers point at him, and I'll show you how it points right back at themselves. Hillary was getting campaign contributions from Russia to the point where the FBI, I believe it was, look it up for yourself, the FBI even said to her, they went to her, not Trump, and they said, hey, we think Russia might be meddling with the elections to do with you. You know what I mean? At last, FBI's reckless. I don't know if that one would cover it. It's all New York Post. I don't know. I hate to see these words like gate, Russia gate, pizza gate. It just tries to play down the situation. But you can, last time I researched it, I had to dig a little bit, and it was through a lot of journalistic crap, but I was able to find some stuff that was fairly solid to do with like that. I'm going to close this before that video starts playing. It will take a little bit of digging, of course, to get there, but you can find some stuff that's fairly solid about that the FBI was investigating. They weren't investigating her per se, but they actually went and gave her a warning to say, like, not that they were going to do anything to her, of course, but they said, hey, we want to let you know that we think there's election meddling going on, and it looks like they're targeting you. Not as in Trump is in cahoots with them and they're going to dump some file on you or anything like that, but as in that whatever the thing of where she had campaign contributions, like the majority, if I remember correctly, the majority of Hillary's campaign contributions in the 2016 election were from outside the United States. They were from foreign countries, and a big chunk of that was from Russia, or a significant chunk of that was from Russia, if I remember correctly. And then you get to somebody like Trump, where there's like virtually nothing from, you know, anything significant that I remember coming from the outside. And they even, when they were having AG Barr testify, they kept grilling him. Is it okay for any candidate to accept any contributions, any foreign contributions whatsoever? You know, like Democrats grilling him on that. And he was like, well, it depends on the circumstance, you know. And they're like, Mr. Barr, what? I mean, whatsoever. And then he thought about it for a split second. He was like, no. Oh, I made myself have to cough doing that voice again. Excuse me. Excuse me. But yeah, he was like, yeah, you know what? No, it's never okay. It's like he thought about it for a second, like, wait a minute, Trump didn't accept any foreign campaign contributions, but the Democrats did. So by me saying I could just play into their stupid game, and it's only going to make them look bad. And so he's like, yeah, you know what, you're right. And then they tried to get him like, oh, I'm sorry you had to think about that and retract your statement, Mr. Barr. And it's like, oh, really? Because, yeah, you might have made him look bad to the ignorant population for the split second, but anybody who has a mind of their own and 1 ounce of intellect is going to go do some research on that and come back and realize, like, oh, you know, we see who's accepting all this stuff. And I mean, they have like the Bidens getting their money from foreign entities. He saw all the Democrats on Congressional Hill throwing their, you know, not all of them, of course, but a handful of them throwing their little thing around their neck, their scarf around their neck, the kente cloths. And those were cloths used by slave traders, literally. And then they take a knee. They're like bowing to another country that was heavily involved in the slave trade, you know? And that's like, whoa. And they're trying to act like that's all like out of solidarity for black people, you know? And then the whole Black Lives Matter thing was like BLM, you know? Like you had to say Black Lives Matter, like in that exact order, those exact words. You can't say it any different. And the reason is that's a particular, that you could literally go back to the campaign contributions from those kinds of groups and they're illegal, you know, but they happen. And a lot of it didn't seem to go directly towards anything to do with like promoting like racial justice or anything like that. And then when those things do happen, they go unnoticed, like Trump's platinum plan, right? Where did anybody even, I know it got a little bit, but platinum, which was a total, here's CNN talking about it. So I don't, usually CNN 99% of the time is not going to spin this favorably if they can help it. Trump unveils, quote, platinum plan for black Americans. President Donald Trump unveiled a plan aimed at winning over black Americans on Friday, less than 2 months before Election Day, largely expanding on existing economic-related initiatives the president established in his first terms. The proposal included prosecuting the KKK and Antifa as terrorist organizations. So he went after KKK and Antifa, and they try and claim that he was pro-KKK, right? How many times have you heard that? And it's like, just give me a break. Also made Juneteenth a federal holiday and efforts to bolster black economic prosperity. So, I mean, technically you could say, on one hand, you could say this is racist, favoring black people, right? And it is, right? You know, I mean that in a neutral sense. I just mean it in like a matter-of-fact sense. And I honestly do think there should be a little bit of that, you know, considering a country that put black people through so much back in, and I don't mean to laugh, I'm just like, give me a break, you know, but 150 plus years ago, the kind of, and even all the way into the 60s and the 1960s and stuff, like just the amount of oppression against that group, it's like there needs to be some return back to, I mean, there's better ways of doing it than targeting skin color, but you know what? A little bit or a lot of it for, whatever. Like, I think it needs to happen. I'm not going to sit there and scrutinize every little thing. I think it should be improved quickly over time on how that's handled and become very quickly less racist instead of more racist. And because otherwise that promotes segregational kind of things and stuff like that. And it turns into the fact where there's like people who could be half white and all mixed races that might deserve some of that. So we need to look at other factors besides skin color. And there's also black people who you could go back their entire lineage and they never were a part of slavery, which I'm happy, but should those people really be getting a payback on stuff? Like I said in the beginning, I don't think it's worth nitpicking a whole lot, but it's something that needs to be ironed out better and better. But anyway, you can look into this, and I would look into it through multiple sources if I was you. There's one of the things that Trump's done, like, oh, Mr. Racist, like, well, he's not racist against black people. And then you can look at stuff like Trump, Whitney. It's just one of the recent things I've seen. I mean, they're just countless. They go back forever. What do we have here? So this is like, I think this is all the same era of like the late 80s here when like Trump, this should be Whitney Houston's mother. He was like involved with, I think this is the exact picture. He's giving her this award. You know what I mean? And that's just, I'm only bringing this one up because it's just like the latest one I've seen. There's Trump and Whitney. Like, dude is not racist whatsoever. You could go down the whole thing and find pictures of him with Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson. Like, he was a total lefty for a long time. Like, even Snoop Dogg tried to turn against him like an idiot. Snoop Dogg's a sellout. Big time. You know what I mean? Lil Wayne knows what's up. It's just like, I don't know. I think it's ridiculous. Oh, there she is. Protesters screaming at Trump inauguration. Oh, man. Classic. And that's just it. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's total libtardness, Like, there's something about some of these people where you could tell it's just like generations and they're freaking, I don't know. I don't get it. Like, is there some chemical they eat or something? Like, there's this particularness about them where they're just like indoctrinated to the BS and you can just spot them. It's like sad. I hate to say it. And I hope that people realize, it's like, if you got a real reason to be upset about something, like, why are you letting it upset you and just talk about it? That kind of thing. Get your voice out there because I'm not going to listen to somebody like that. Wow. What a charmer. Okay. Anyway, thanks for watching.